These horse drawings have kind of come out of nowhere, really. I was going to make a series of works based on William Blake's Sick Rose poem, which I've always liked, and just prior to getting started on that, some news turned up on the radio. I think it was BP who had decided finally that they would walk away from any of their previous interests in research and development into renewable energy because, profit. And it was just the frustration of hearing that news that kind of drove my imagination, I suppose. I've drawn some horses recently and I've enjoyed doing it. Perhaps they were still in my head, I don't know. But it was this kind of consideration then of this news of our relationship with the environment and also the apocalyptic connection with horses as well. So horses in stories, I suppose, was the main driver of it. They've often been subjects of art. They're usually symbolising, strength, freedom and grace. But they can also kind of serve as, a poignant metaphor for how humanity exploits both the environment and the creatures with which we share the world. So, turning attention to horses as a subject for the drawings, I think that they become much more than just a depiction of an animal. I think they can evolve into symbols of that tension between our human desires and, the fragility of the natural world. So horses, particularly in history, they have been essential to our progress. It's transportation, essentially engines for agriculture, and depressingly, in wartime as well. But this relationship with horses, always with humanity, reflects a broader and darker reality, and that's one of exploitation. And just as the horse was sometimes driven to exhaustion, overworked and frequently mistreated, the environment we're living in today faces similar strains. Our relentless consumption of natural resources, the perpetual, the incessant degradation of ecosystems and the pollution of air and water all parallel this exploitation. I think much like horses forced to work beyond their capacity, sometimes, historically probably more so, the earth is also pushed beyond its sustainable limits without regard for the consequences. Additionally, in a political context, horses can symbolise the way power dynamics are built upon the backs of the vulnerable. Horses have been used, as I said, in battles as a machine to assert control and enforce human domination. In today's world, political systems often reflect this same model. Nations or corporations benefit from the subjugation or domination of others. It could be through control and exploitation or manipulation of resources or labour or even just entire populations. The horse, an animal I think is elegant and powerful, I think also mirrors the way the environment and marginalised communities are used as tools, just as tools, in a broader, often unjust game of power. In depicting my horses, or in depicting horses in my drawings, whether they're in moments of grace or under stress and duress, I hope these representations highlight how society treats not just the animals, but the world around us. Horses, like the earth and its resources, are often caught in cycles of misuse, abuse, and the images I'm making of them, I hope, reflect both the harm we inflict and the beauty we risk losing if we don't reconsider how we approach the world politically, economically, and fundamentally ecologically. So that's the reason for the horses. Hopefully, through this lens, horses that I depict become metaphors for these environmental crises and the political injustices we all face today. And perhaps, being the eternal optimist about the value of art, it will urge the viewer to pause and think about how we treat both our home, the earth, and our living neighbours. And I'm enjoying making the work, so there will be more. Particularly the Welsh Ceffyl Dwr folk story has some interesting anti-authoritarian aspects that appeal. So I'll carry on. Thanks for listening.